Welcome back to the API Resilience Podcast. This episode features the second half of our conversation with Mehdi Medjaoui, founder of the API Days conferences and a director of APIFirst.com and GDPR.dev. In the first part of the conversation, we covered a lot of ground, where Mehdi shared his thoughts on the mindset required to be an API-first organization, building a successful developer experience, and delivering a lot of value to your organization and your customers in the process. Now here's the rest of our discussion with Mehdi, where he shares his provocative views on personal data and the rights that we all have under the GDPR regulations.
One of the things that has been inspiring for me is that you have a firm leg in the business world, and you're abreast with the things that are happening in large companies and how APIs are being used there. But you also have a very strong civil sense of responsibility. I don't know. It sometimes feels like it's like a French philosophy thing almost. Sometimes it feels like, but it's been really inspiring to see that popping up at API Days in Paris. There's always some conversation that goes in that direction. And you mentioned to us before we started recording that you're working on a new initiative around GDPR. Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I will just do some echo. I would just do some echo to what you said about API Days. Yeah, we try to at least have some philosophical or political opinion. If you think technology is agnostic of politics, is not the case, right? It's an ideology to think technology doesn't have any ideology, right? Behind it. So yeah, but we always consider that at some point, software is eating the world. Software is disrupting people, AI is coming, whatever. So at some point, there will be people below the API, or people above the API, right? People that will be, they will take their orders and they will take their shift directly directed by an API, by a software, by a remote application, right? Or people that will use the application, or people that will build the application for others. So, and I think there will be soon a great divide between people if we have too many people below the API, right, that receive an order from an app, they will, I think something will collapse, right? So the gig economy and stuff like that. So we try to educate also about the fact that if your middle management is a software, right? If your middle management is an app with some APIs that tell you have to go there, you will be paid this. This is the direction you need to take, and this is the payment you will collect, right? At some point, you are at risk of disintermediation by your technology. So we are in favor of helping people to go above the API, right? To stay above the API. And API Days has always been in that direction. Mm-hmm. And so to stay above the API, there is one solution. Is that keeping all your, be trained and understand the thing, but also getting all your digital capital with yourself and mostly your personal data. Because if you have all your personal data with you, right, you increase your value when you log into an application or when you go into a specific website or a shop or whatever, right? Because you will be able to trade that data in exchange of better services or optimization of services, right? Or customer experience enhancement, right? Because this is what people collect data on us. It's to sell us at some point, but that's also to deliver us a better experience, maybe a buying experience, but still a buying experience. So we have these new data regulations, so GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California and other countries. But let's say now these regulations, they don't directly ask for APIs. So we cannot directly get our data directly via APIs, right? So that's prehistorical again. But as API Days was my mission to evangelize about APIs, I'd say, okay, now my new mission is to oblige these companies to have APIs to give us our data. So we launched a new project called GDPR.dev. So it's developer tools to implement GDPR Portability, with all open source and free software. But we also hired 3 lawyers to do manual requests for people, like a concierge MVP, right? To to push these organizations to give APIs to access to our personal data. And then when we will all be able to have our personal data with ourselves, we will have our personal APIs. We will have the right to be represented by an API on the web, by a bot or whatever. And we will be able to be discoverable. We will be able to have this value of trade when we will log into platforms. And also we will have the ability to export our data from a service to another if we want to change. So that's the goal of GDPR.dev. First, develop open source developer tools to implement GDPR portability. And then the idea is for users to be able to re-own their data, put an API on it, and being discoverable by other people, other applications, a little bit like web pages. But when people will request your data, you will just receive a notification. Hey, this new application, I've seen you have some, you have your LinkedIn network data in your system. Do you want to share that so they can recommend you better people to connect with on their network? Yes or no, right? But yeah, so I think one way to stay above the API is to maximize your human capital, your knowledge and your skills, but also your data capital, right? And just to finish, but I have 12 years of history on Amazon. I have 13 years of history on Facebook. I have a lot of data capital, digital capital that if I re-own, I will be able to share it if I want with others and fund them with data. If you want the next generation of application to happen, right, you can pay their service, but you can also give them the data you gave to others for them to fill the gap. So that's really the goal of GDPR.dev.
Yeah. Mehdi.
This is cool stuff.
Laying down some heavy stuff here. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, not only Zdenek does cool stuff, right?
I love that idea. Like fund like a crowdfunding, but where you're giving your data instead of your money, or maybe your data and your money.
Data and your money, but unless you help the next generation of application to happen, right, they will not come. The barrier is too high, the concentration is too high for the previous companies that, and again, I'm not anti-Facebook or anti-GAFAs, right? I just want equal opportunities for applications to deliver value for users. And unless we are part of it by giving what we gave to Facebook to others, right, just for fair competition, they will never be able to reach a level of user experience. And just for the funny story, a lot of people actually we do research with say, I'm okay to export my Facebook data and re-own it, but I don't want to share it with someone else. It's too private. Yeah. I say, look, but you shared it. You still share it with Facebook, right? So unless you fund by data with money or both, you fund next generation of application that will be a little bit fairer with your data, more transparent, and you will stay in the old world. So what word do you want to maintain? The next one, right? That you can maintain and fund, or the old one that you're pissed off and you want to change. So yeah, it's funny to see that people don't get their bargaining power and their ability to be actors of change, right? For now, personal data is too much about privacy. And by automating and putting APIs on top of GDPR portability, we want also people to understand their economic power, right? We vote with papers, or but in the business sometimes we vote with our money.
How much though do you think that the average person really understands how much data is being collected about them? So I don't think that most people really understand.
And again, we only know what we can know from the legal requests we do, and with some people who tell us inside the organization they are not allowed to. But this is why late dinners at conference and late drinks are for, right? What's being done with the data, right? Yeah. So most of the people don't know, but some people also are completely decorrelated. So some people tell us they make dozens of thousands of dollars with our data, right? But when you just check for Facebook, for example, Facebook, in average per user, make $40 per year per user, right? Approximately. If you consider high stakes user from, let's say, richest users, it can go to 100, 150, right? But it's not huge, it's a lot. But when you say people, yeah, Facebook does $12 with your data per month, would you pay these $12 so they remove the data? A lot of people would say, no, it's okay, right? And when you check the valuation of Facebook based on the users, Facebook is valued already like 700 billion for 2.5 billion users. Make it quick, that makes approximately $300 per user, right? So the lifetime value of a Facebook user with its Facebook data on this lifetime on the platform is quoted $300 on the market. So when you say people like, would you pay $300 to just for Facebook to not have your data? At least some people are, first they consider it's not enough. They don't believe it's so much. And the second thing, yeah, most of the people say at the end, no, right? Yeah. So there is a lot of misconceptions about the data. And we made a calculation. If you share your Facebook data, Google, Amazon data, the top 20 services you use, like Netflix and others, and if you share it with everybody, like every application you own, you share all the data with everybody, like you're fully transparent, fully diluted. That will make you a digital capital depending on people, between $8,000 and $50,000. But you like no privacy. You share your Facebook data with 100 services, your Google data with 100 services, right? That will make you approximately this digital capital. So there will be an in-between of what people want to share for their economical opportunity. Maybe a few hundreds, maybe a few thousands dollars, that share with others. But if 3 billion users share $1,000 value with others, that's 3 billion by 1,000, that's $3 trillion, which is 4 times the capitalization of Facebook, for example, right? Or Microsoft plus Google, let's say, data company. So Google plus 2 times Facebook, right? Of data, if just everybody share their data with others. So there are new giants to be made with further data, but we have to be part of it. And that's the goal of GDPR.dev.
Very cool. And I think the way that I see it, there's 2 types of APIs right now. So you have the APIs that are sensing, that are plugging into data streams. And then you have the APIs that are executing, like I've compared it in the past to your sensory system, just like your eyes and your skin and all your senses, versus your muscles that you're like triggering a certain action in the world. And so the thing you just described is personal data streams as one of the watchers. And I wonder if there's an equivalent for like a personal action stream or something like that, or like a personal API that triggers a certain reaction. I think to some extent the gig economy is already doing this, but I wonder if there's a way to generalize that.
Yeah, so let's say in the gig economy, some people are actually trying to use GDPR and their asset as workers for themselves. So there is in Amsterdam, in Netherlands, there is the Worker Interdata Exchange. So it's people who it's a nonprofit who helps Uber drivers to get their data, all their data from Uber, so when they want to go to other platforms or when they go to other, when they want to organize themselves, for example, at least they have all their past ratings, their past, comments and everything, their past rides and the routes optimization, and they want to pull this data together to either organize themselves in co-ops, or if they want to go to another platform, at least they are able to go with their influence or with their good ratings, right? Their history, right? Because sometimes when you have a good rating on a platform and you have a bad rating and you don't have yet a rating on another, you're not really incentivized to go another. So it's, again, as a worker of the gig economy, getting back all their data to be able to to have more value with other platforms or employers and stuff like that. So your boss, your manager, your middle manager is an API at some point, right? Or a bunch of APIs, right? But with GDPR, if we're able to make an API on top of GDPR and then force companies to give it by APIs, because we will ask them too much, as I was telling you, the goal is to ask them dozens of thousands of manual tasks, so they're obliged to give an endpoint, automated endpoint. Mm-hmm. So when they will be able to do that, yes, even workers of the gig economy could go above the API by re-owning all their data and be able to give it to another software, API, whatever, and be welcome as a first-class citizen instead of a newcomer on the platform.
It's, to me, this. So one of the things that I've been thinking about for a very long time is stigmergism, stigmergy, which is when, like, this is how ants coordinate. Like an ant nest, there's no central brain deciding what to do. It's the information that is being positioned in the environment that is triggering the ants to do the work that they need to do. And it's like a giant self-organizing mesh of individuals that are acting like a superorganism. And it's this, for me, like the stuff we're describing here just sounds so much like that. It really feels like what we're doing here is we're creating the global ant nest built out of humans, where we are triggering behavior of individuals through APIs. We are monitoring individuals through APIs, and it's all. I think what is missing is like what are the driving principles, and how do you optimize for maximum value creation for the collective, rather than individual macroorganisms in the system directing for their own profits. So how do you go for a global optimization of value for all of society, rather than having local actors having to be the intermediary that drive value creation and that are there to push for value creation?
Yeah, but let's remember two things. First, on the GDPR aspect, but to say most of the companies don't just send the data. This is why we don't send at least valuable data. They just kill all the value. They just send like a mixed whatever. You ask for the raw, beautiful, valuable data, and they just give you
a PDF.
even a PDF, but even the data they claim to have on you is not true, and it's not all what they have. Just an example: Facebook doesn't give you the ID of your friends or on the network, where the social graph actually is the main value, and you provided it by making the action to accept the friend. So it should be a data provided by the user, and so they just get rid of all the value of the data they give you. So this is why we have lawyers full-time dedicated to show them that they need to ask the value, and every time we will get something from them, it will be public, and so everybody will be able to get it, right? So the idea is to nudge them by publication. Yeah, so that's the thing we need to know. So on the legal part, it's not done. The technical part, and I agree with you that's a great utopia there. And I'm totally in it. But for now, we need to have the the legal aspect to work. To make it happen. But yeah, so I believe in the group, in the collective, but I also believe in the individual freedom. Yes. And if we have sometimes in Western countries we think too much about the individual freedom and not enough about the group aspect. What we forget to obtain in the group, right? What we're able to leave away for obtaining something better in the collective. But sometimes in more Oriental or Eastern countries, the group is too important, and they forget the individual.
Yes.
Right. And so and I think with a nice decentralized, let's say, data storage and portability, right, we will be able to have the group aspect, but also respecting the individual. And let's remember that decentralization is great, but it has drawbacks.
Yes.
Sometimes it's safety. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes you don't have the whole data the whole time. It need consistency. So you have to wait. So not every user is ready to accept the drawbacks of decentralization for its good parts. Bitcoin is an example where people accept because something that is not controlled by a currency that is not controlled by any central bank. People are okay with it, and they are accept to wait, and they accept this crazy, variation of stuff and this manipulation. But they still believe the fact that it's not controlled by any government is over the top of the effect of decentralization. But for many, many things, for e-commerce, for social network, would you accept a social network where your friends are 5 different servers and you have to log to 5 different servers to find your friends? None of people do. 5 billion people accept to be on Mastodon to find their friends on different servers from the network, like with video games where we're doing it, going to different servers for having different maps and different players. But not everybody is ready for that. Or if you take Open Bazaar, right, you have to install something on your computer, or some decentralized search engine, you have to install something on your computer too, and not everybody is ready for that. So centralization has some good part on the user experience that we need also to consider when we want to decentralize everything. So there is an in-between to find, and we hope we'll find it.
I think it's one of, I read this, I don't remember where, but they said that anytime you can harmonize two things that are seemingly contradictory, you unlock a whole lot of value. And I think this is what we're working on here, is the unlocking of the value of marrying the individual freedom with the greater good of all of humanity. And yeah, well, we've gone very much into the philosophy side.
You brought me here.
I know. And it's so tempting.
but APIs will be an extremely important part of it, because as I was saying in a French article to a paper, but to a newspaper, like when you design APIs, you design the words that's come with it. And if you design more open APIs with let's say copyleft, copyright licenses, and if you design APIs in a way with links to others which are open and to be browsable and discoverable, you build another API industry and let's say programmable web. Then you have APIs with paywall gateways, with hard-coded URLs behind firewalls, and that you have to log in and you have to give all your infos to access to it and everything. So I understand security, I understand protecting business assets, but on the other side, there is another world where, inspired by the web, where APIs can be a little bit less constrained, more interoperable, more connected to others, for more resilient. Again, we may have some security issues that we need to overcome. So we need at some point, some companies to handle a certain part of the infrastructure. But there is a developer part and a user part that I think could really leverage decentralized aspect and resilience aspect and scale-free networks aspects compared to the way APIs are built today. So yeah, there is this in between, and we have so many API conferences and so many API entrepreneurs and developer experience companies who can help us to go in that direction.
And I think it's also, like this transactional value, the value of the monetary value of services and the business of things does not have to oppose or be in opposition with the greater good. I think that like the way the world is structured, these things can go hand in hand. I think that we are living in a much better world. Like even though that there's some really scary things happening, things seem to be going really, really fast. I think globally we're much better off than decades ago. Even the fact that like we are in the middle of a pandemic and we're talking about vanquishing this pandemic like in 2 years' time, or like Bill Gates had this I read this interview with Bill Gates where he said, at least for the rich world, we can expect that COVID will be done by the end of 2021. The fact that we can talk about a timescale of 2 years for a global pandemic is just insane. There's so much progress that we've made. So I think that we keep doing that, and I think APIs are a very strong part of that. And it's also very good for business. It's just more value being created, which is good for everybody, both on the individual and on the global level. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I would just say that sometimes people who do things for good, they sometimes forget that because they want also to forget, right? Their ability also to sometimes accumulate value by doing some design patterns that will enable to do more, right? But
yes.
Again, that's the way they want to build. But sometimes we forget this too much, right? We forget this too much. It's
very hard, I think, coming to that realization that the only way to be able to do good at scale is to go into it and to accumulate wealth.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. So it's to do something which is highly capture value at high scale with dark patterns, but then to be able to make a foundation to give to good stuff. But there are really few people who are able to say no to glory and fame and money. I know personally one, which is Jean-Baptiste Kempf, the founder of VLC Media Player.
Mm-hmm.
He has 500 million active users, estimated $1 billion downloads. Sorry, he could do a competitor of Netflix tomorrow. He could do partnerships with some, people who wants to deliver videos or movies to his community and stuff. He could, if he just do an adware or whatever spyware, malware into 10% of the VLC thing, he could earn dozens of millions of euros tomorrow. But he still this 30 people company that's okay. That's a small SME that's profitable enough to survive. And yes, but it's a fight. And really, this is an example sometimes that we need to remember when we all want to scale and capture value. And sometimes we talk to VCs, say, look, this is how much value here. This people are, let's say, addicted. Yeah, they're addicted. They will pay. They will sell their mother and father for more of my application. So let's remember that there are other models that do greater good and create more value than just for yourself.
And I think it's the balance. It's finding the right balance. That is the trick, because if you give away everything too fast and you don't capture, you need to capture something, because if you don't capture anything at all, then in today's world, it's very, very unlikely that you'll succeed. There's a few exceptions that do. On the other hand, if you try to capture everything, it also doesn't work. It's that balance between the two that's, I think, important, where we can all thrive and make our businesses thrive. And
Mike Amundsen used to say that money is in the gap, right? So there is a gap, and actually, the more you create the gap, the more the value you can capture. So what's the gap you create? What's the barrier of entry you create? So this is why everybody talks about barrier to entry. Mm-hmm. And I will just finish with a metaphor that I use sometimes for APIs. Is about biology environment, right? And so I don't know if so most of the biological environments, small or big, if they don't exchange with their ecosystem, they stay small, and sometimes they don't survive well. If they're too open and too diluted, they die. So being too diluted, you cannot survive, but being too small and too closed, you cannot grow. And if I don't know if you're familiar with insular nanism. It's animals who stayed on island, but who never found any predators, who never found any competition for food, so they stay small. They completely stay small. And you have elephants which are half a meter high, right? Because they never had to grow and to find barriers and to compete. So I agree with you. There is an in between. There is an in between a small half a meter elephant on an island, but maybe happy, right? But to be a really big elephant, but maybe chased by too many competition and hunters and stuff, right? So there is an in between to find, and the design of APIs, I think, is a key element into finding that right balance. Mm-hmm. What do you open? What do you keep for yourself? Right.
Very, very, very good.
Yeah,
Mehdi, this is amazing.
It is amazing. At a certain point, I just sat back to listen because my head was so full of thoughts. I had nothing useful to put out.
It's just your question that enlightened me. So it's because of your question. Thank you for that.
We need to do more of these.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally went into philosophical stuff, but we are who we are.
We are who we are.
Mehdi, it's been quite a pleasure to sit at your feet here and hear your views on these things. It's been quite an education for me. Opened up a lot of doors of thinking and imagination for me, and it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure was mine too. Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you very much for having me.
I look forward to meeting you in person at one of the API Days conferences.
Yeah, hope to as soon as possible.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning into this episode of API Resilience. Please check out the show notes, and you can learn more about Mehdi and all of the things that he's involved in by following him on Twitter and checking out the websites that we've got listed. And also feel free to send us your comments if you've got ideas for topics that we should discuss or people we should have on to interview. We're interested in that as well.
Thank you for listening to the API Resilience podcast. If you liked what you heard, please follow us to hear our latest episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. And if you have any comments or feedback you would like to share, please drop us an email at podcasts@pronovix.com. Until next time, we wish you well and hope you find success in all your endeavors.